as we kind of reset and get everything going, we'll start up our coverage here in just a second. Kind of get going here. All right, and so big time storm system, a lot of impacts, a lot of real estate being impacted here. This one is likely going to be historic. We're just starting the stream, about that, and we'll make sure that we get everything situated here in terms of any technical snafus that may occur. Problems with the frame rate, let me know so I can adjust it before we start actually getting into some of the weather information. Just kind of playing around with some new technology here. And sometimes it can be a little finicky, a little bit slow. So I just want to make sure that we are all right. How are things looking now? If it's still lagging, let me know. Might have to restart and kind of jump back on. But for the most part, I feel like things should be okay. Working off some new internet here. And so somebody said it's better. Jenna said it's better. That's awesome. If it starts to lag again, let me know. Seems to be working much better. That's fantastic. I'm happy to hear it. Sometimes I just want to jump on and get right into the weather information and start talking weather. But as always, there seems to be some technical snafus that tend to present themselves, and sometimes that can delay us a little bit, which is why I gave us a little bit of wiggle room here in terms of timing before we actually start digging into information and letting you know what's going on. I mean, you've probably heard about this system. In fact, I don't know of anybody who hasn't heard about this powerhouse, potentially historic storm system that's on the way. It's going to be impacting so many states. A large part of the country is going to be impacted by this, and even spots that aren't directly impacted likely are going to be dealing with some kind of repercussions, whether that be from air travel or some other kind of travel as well. So cross-country storm system, a lot of alerts, multifaceted. And I know a lot of you here, as the chat kind of starts to get going and we start getting more viewers, you're going to have questions about your particular location. Here's how things are going to go. First, we're going to start with the big picture, meaning we're going to talk about watches, warnings that we have in place right now. Then we're going to start diving in a little bit more to specific regions, focusing in a little bit more, at least in the beginning here, across the Midwest into the Southern Plains, because those are the spots that we have the highest confidence so far in the forecast and also are going to be impacted first. And then after that, we'll start talking more about the Ohio Valley into the south and southeast and eventually the northeast as well, including the I-95 corridor, big cities like New York City, Boston, Philadelphia, all going to be impacted by this storm system. So there's a ton of information to get through and to get to, which is why this is going to be a little bit longer of a stream. Also likely going to be a tiny bit different in the way that we do this versus severe weather coverage, a little bit more relaxed, just because we have so much time to talk about what's going on, and also because there isn't really any active weather that's taking place right this second. However, with that being said, there is still going to be kind of some urgency here to our delivery, because this is a serious storm system and it is a life-threatening one. So I think we're good to go in terms of stream and lag issues. I'm looking at the chat right now. Most of you are saying it's better, it seems to be working much better, which is great news. I appreciate the feedback. If you start to see problems again with the stream being delayed, you can't hear me, you can't see the screen, let me know. And then again, sort of the plan for right now is we're going to start big picture, talking whole country, watches, warnings that we have in place at the moment, and then start diving in region by region, focusing in on the central southern plains. We'll get to the south, southeast, and then eventually the northeast as this system works into that part of the country early next week. And then once we get past that, we'll start talking more about some of your specific locations, some of the comments and questions that you may have about where you live or your friends or your neighbors live. So let's get into it. Let's dive in to what's happening. And we'll start first of all with our big watches and warnings map, right? This is a colorful one. And it's been a long time since we've seen a map that looks like this in terms of winter weather. So check it out. We obviously have big winter storm warnings in pink that cover most of the central to southern plains, also getting into parts of the Ohio Valley as well. So anywhere that you see in pink, that is a winter storm warning. That includes a good part of central into eastern New Mexico, most of Texas, with the exception of far southern Texas. We also have pretty much the entire state of Oklahoma, which is underneath a winter storm warning as well. Much of Kansas, including the Kansas City metro, underneath a winter storm warning. Much of Missouri, pretty much all of Arkansas. And then notice that pink color that you see there. Obviously, we talked about that being the winter storm warning, but the purple there across parts of northern Mississippi and into Tennessee, those are ice storm warnings that we have in place. So yes, snow, ice, going to be a huge deal with this. And then that lighter shade of blue that you see that stretches into the northeast, that of course is going to be our winter storm watch that we have in place. And yes, already winter storm watches extend into, believe it or not, Maine, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Richmond, Virginia, Raleigh, the Carolinas here, getting into the southeast underneath a winter storm watch at this time. So let's kind of, first of all, talk about, yes, we identified who's underneath these winter storm watches and warnings, and where you see the pink color, the winter storm warnings, that's where we're going to start to see some of the highest impacts first. And then eventually, yes, those winter storm watches, which are going to be in the blue color that you see, those will more than likely at some point in time here in the near future be upgraded to winter storm warnings. So that's going to come likely a little bit later on here, either tomorrow or on Saturday. So look at, again, how much real estate is covered underneath the winter storm warning that we have right now. Just a ton of areas here underneath winter storm warnings that we're watching. So let's kind of show you the next product that takes us through the big picture, and that is our Winter Storm Severity Index. And you may have heard about this. This is a product that is actually fairly new, that's used by the National Weather Service and particularly the Weather Prediction Center. And they put this out, and it just gives a general idea of how severe or how impactful a winter storm may be. And when you start getting into some of the red here, that's going to be high on our Winter Storm Severity Impact Scale. And so most of southern Missouri, getting into Arkansas, parts of eastern Oklahoma, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, even northern Louisiana, the Shreveport area, underneath this higher or heightened winter storm severity risk zone area. And then check it out, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, and Philadelphia, also underneath the more heightened or higher risk in the winter storm severity index. But just because you're not in the red doesn't mean that you're not going to be dealing with significant impacts from this one. Check it out. Most of Kansas down through parts of central and western Oklahoma, most of Texas there, also in what we would call more of the moderate category or the orange zone for the winter storm severity index. So bottom line, this sort of just gives a general overview or picture of how impactful winter weather conditions could be where you live. And you can see there's a lot of red, which is, again, at the higher end of the scale, a lot of orange, which is sort of in the middle of the scale, and then once you start seeing some of the lighter yellow colors there, that, of course, too, is going to be a problem in terms of at least some impacts, minor disruptions from this. So there's so much real estate that's covered by this system. And for those of you who are just joining, who are tuning in, what we've done so far is we've talked about who's underneath what kind of watches and warnings, and then talked a little bit about our winter storm severity index scale, which can be super helpful when it comes to identifying winter weather concerns. So let's, again, because we have some new viewers who are joining right now, talk about the very basics, and then we'll get into the actual forecast itself and start going region by region, because again, this is a cross-country storm system, and so many of you have questions about your particular location, where you live, whether you'll see snow or ice, and we're going to get to that. But first, I want to start broad, and then we'll kind of get a little bit smaller and go mesoscale, if you will, with this. So if you're just joining, thanks so much for tuning in, for watching the stream. We have a lot of information to get to, a lot to talk about, and so we'll begin here now. It is 5:20 in the evening here Central Time, and we are preparing for a historic, potentially blockbuster winter storm that's going to be impacting a lot of the country. And so it's on the way, and it's going to cause some really big problems for so many folks. So let's do this. Give me just a second to work with one little system behind the scenes, and then we'll kind of again start getting into more of the nitty-gritty. All right, so if you're just joining, we are preparing for, again, a historic, potentially blockbuster winter storm. It is a cross-country winter storm. There are already a lot of alerts that are in place. So let's begin, again, by looking with who's underneath what winter alert. And you can see a lot of the middle of the country, the central, the southern plains, big chunk of real estate underneath a winter storm warning. The winter storm warning is going to be in pink. So again, that includes most of central to southern Kansas, pretty much all of Oklahoma, most of Texas, central into eastern New Mexico, most of Missouri down through Arkansas, and then you get that ice storm warning there, and that's in purple across parts of northern Mississippi and into parts of central and southern Tennessee. Outside of that, you have a winter storm watch, which means we're getting ready for the potential of winter weather conditions, fine-tuning the forecast. Winter storm watch in place for all of the Northeast. That includes Boston, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. This could be one of the bigger storm systems for the nation's capital that we've seen in quite a few years. And so plenty of winter weather alerts that are in place already. Where's our storm system right now as we speak? Well, it's still actually a ways out. It's across parts of Southern California, and it doesn't look all that impressive as we look at our visible satellite this afternoon. You can see that we have, again, a little swirl in the atmosphere there across Southern California, and that's the storm system that eventually is going to be tracking across the country as we zoom in on it here a little bit tighter, tracking across the country and bringing in these really historic winter weather impacts. So the storm system that you see now, that doesn't look all that impressive on radar, it's a small little guy across Southern California, is going to be moving across the country. And then again, it looks like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and into Tuesday are going to be the big days for the winter weather impacts and the significant winter storm across the central country, into the south, southeast, and eventually the northeast as well. So that's where the winter storm is right now. We have winter weather alerts ahead of it, those winter storm warnings that we talked about across most of the central and the southern plains. Winter storm watches across the northeast. That's from Monday into Tuesday when the system eventually moves into that part of the country. And then, by the way, another facet to this system is the very cold air that's in place. So next thing I want to talk about is a little bit of the science behind what's happening here and exactly why this storm system is more than likely going to be one of the more significant ones that we've seen in quite some time. So a couple of things are happening. First of all, and I want to turn off just for a second for the sake of clarity, our winter alerts and just talk for a second about the setup with this one. So we have a very powerful, or strong would be the correct word, area of high pressure here across parts of the northern plains. That high pressure system is moving south and it has a ton of cold air locked into it. So there's your source for cold air with that high pressure system. At the same time, right, we have our high. There's your cold. We're also going to be watching a low pressure system that we just talked about. I showed it to you a second ago across the southwest that right now is near the San Diego area or so. That's going to be moving east across the country. So there's your source of cold, the high pressure system that's driving in the cold. And then you also have your low pressure system, that's the storm system. So you have two ingredients already. You have the cold and then you have the storm system that's going to be moving east. Both of those kind of combining and coming into place at the same time. The other thing that I want to mention, and this is why I think we're going to have such a problem when it comes to ice, is we do have at least some moisture that is coming up off of the Gulf. And that moisture translates to, at least relatively speaking, when it comes to a winter storm, some warmth. And so when you have that warm air kind of riding over the cold air, that's a recipe for ice. So several components, right? You have your mild air coming up off the Gulf. You also have your very powerful area of high pressure that's going to be driving in the bitterly cold temperatures. And then you have your low pressure system here that's going to be moving east, ejecting into the southern plains. And so that's a recipe for snow and for ice as well. So that's sort of the science or the breakdown of, and again, that's a basic breakdown of why we're expecting and more than likely going to be seeing so many problems here over the coming days. Let's talk for a second now, again, about the cold. And because we were just talking about it a second ago, I want to show you what the temperatures look like right now here across the northern plains. And these are actual air temperatures. It is 17 degrees below zero in Fargo, 13 below in Bismarck, North Dakota. And about 17 below Thunder Bay. St. Paul is 11 below, low 20s in Des Moines. This is the pool of cold air that we're watching that's going to be moving south and sort of setting the recipe for the snow to fall. And then again, mild air that's coming off the Gulf, as that kind of overlaps, that will create the icing problems that we have at play. So next thing we want to do is kind of get into, now that we've talked about the watches and the warnings that are in place, right? And then we'll reset at the top of the hour. But the next thing we want to do is kind of get into how the forecast looks like it's going to evolve hour by hour, and then also region by region. And we'll start first kind of by looking at the country as a whole, and then we'll go from there. And so Give me just 1 second as I'm trying to get my pen tool to work and see if I can get it to draw for us. I don't think it is right now. It is not, and that's okay. All right, so let's get into this region by region and kind of hour by hour. So here we are on this Thursday afternoon, and the weather is quiet across the country. There's not much happening except for that small scale storm system, relatively speaking, that's spinning here across Southern California. Remember, that's our main weather maker that's going to come into play as it moves across the country. Watch what happens as we get into Friday. This is now going to be early Friday morning around sunrise. Weather is still quiet for most of the country, but check out what's happening here across parts of New Mexico. You're starting to see some rain showers developing. This is liquid precipitation, but that's that storm system I talked about moving away from California and then moving into the Four Corners region. Your big high pressure system with that very cold Arctic air mass slams south at the same time that storm system arrives across the central and the southern plains. And then you start getting into some of the mixing that'll take place initially here across the Texas Panhandle and in northwest Texas. Likely an icy mix at first. This is going to be on Friday afternoon. Some rain in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for most of Friday afternoon. And then next thing you know, by Friday night and into Saturday morning is when we start getting the first of two big punches with this storm system. So it's going to likely be a mix of freezing rain and sleet across southern Oklahoma at a somewhat high intensity late Friday into early Saturday morning. I would cancel your plans. And then heavy snow on the north side of that, where you have just that cold air locked into place across northern Oklahoma through Kansas. And this just continues for several hours. Again, we have two sort of waves that we're talking about. This is wave number one. Now we're getting through Saturday midday. This first little wave begins to move into parts of northern and central Arkansas with the Little Rock area dealing with a mix of freezing rain and sleet, heavy amounts of snow to the north of that. And then as we get into parts of central Missouri, also dealing with snow. And then eventually, again, that system continues its cross-country journey as we get into late Saturday and into Sunday. So that's sort of the first wave, and then you have wave number two that's emerging. This is your upper level low pressure system that's coming off the Rockies. This is going to bring in yet another round of heavy rain and snow and sleet and freezing rain, the whole 9 yards across parts of the central and into the southern plains. So that's a bigger picture across the country. I want to kind of for a second though, just go a little more regional and show you the south central US and how this is likely going to evolve. And we're going to switch model runs for just a second, and we'll go over to the European model. And we're going to use, just so we have a full run, the 12Z suite on this. And again, Dream, I know that we have a ton of questions. A lot of your questions are about specific locations, where you live, and I promise you we're going to get to that. But the way that this is sort of going to work is we're going to take it section by section. So first we talked about the winter weather alerts that we have in place. Then we talked about the setup, the cold, the different facets and components that are going to be coming into play with this system. Now we're talking about the central and the southern plains. Then we'll go southeast. Then we'll go northeast. I'll answer some of your questions and then we'll reset at the top of the hour here. So let's get back into what we're expecting across the central and southern plains. And again, we're going hour by hour now. So remember, this is on our Thursday afternoon. Weather is still quiet. And then look at what happens as we get into Friday. This is now going to be Friday afternoon. So we're talking, again, Friday, late afternoon, early evening. Most of you are okay in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, dealing with a little bit of rain on Friday afternoon. However, once we get past about, let's say, 6, 7 o'clock on Friday, then we start to see the transition over, and again, this is just for North Texas, from the rain to a little bit more frozen precip. So notice the pink that we have. That's going to be a mix of freezing rain and sleet late Friday into early Saturday. So Friday night plans, Dallas-Fort Worth area, probably want to cancel them because we're going to see the changeover initially from rain then to likely a little bit of sleet and freezing rain. Even some thunder freezing rain is not completely out of the question. That continues into our Saturday morning. So early Saturday morning, look at the wintry mix here near the Red River across parts of North Texas dealing with freezing rain. There's going to be a corridor of sleet that's going to be embedded in here as well. And then north of that, as you get into Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, Oklahoma City northward, Tulsa, central to southern Kansas, early Saturday morning, you're now dealing with round number 1 of 2 of likely some light to moderate snow that's ongoing. Notice the Arkansas area as we progress east here. This is the Little Rock area that I'm sort of highlighting. Saturday morning, you're dealing with bursts of heavy snow, some sleet that's taking place as well, maybe a little bit south of there, Hot Springs area. And then across southern Arkansas, it's going to be the freezing rain that we're talking about mixed in with some of that sleet. How about across central to southern Texas? That's more of a question mark. You know, Austin down to San Antonio, likely dealing with perhaps some bursts of rain to freezing rain, less in the way of snow with this system for you, more in the way it looks like of rain, freezing, yes, and sleet. So again, back to our hour-by-hour radar here. This is early Saturday morning. 12Z is a timestamp. North Texas dealing with rain and freezing rain. Oklahoma City points northward, dealing with periods of light to moderate snow. That gets into southern Kansas as well. And then again, Arkansas, central Arkansas, Little Rock, you're right on that rain, snow kind of line, and sleet and freezing rain line as well. How about on Saturday afternoon? There might be a little bit of a lull in the activity at some point on Saturday afternoon for this part of the country. So we're talking about, you know, Texas, Oklahoma, parts of southern Kansas, southwest Missouri. There could be a small break. But then we're going to get our upper level wave that's going to come in here likely sometime late Saturday, continue into Sunday. That's going to bring in another round of wintry weather. So now this is going to be on Sunday, early in the morning, and we're talking about this time areas a little further south into Texas, such as Austin, San Antonio, dealing with potentially some heavy amounts of freezing rain mixed in with sleet and maybe a bit of snow. Meanwhile, most of central Oklahoma is dealing with moderate to heavy snow at times. Southwest Missouri, Joplin area, dealing with heavy snow. And then again, once we get into, let's say, Sunday midday or so, for this part of the country, central southern plains, things will start to clear out, dry out. This system will move out, but you're still going to be dealing with the very bitter cold air that's going to be in place for quite some time. So let's talk amounts here and jump in specifically first with snow totals for the southern plains. And what you're going to see is some pretty impressive numbers north of where we have the freezing rain and sleet line. So here's a look at snow totals. And again, I recognize this is a cross-country storm system. So for right now, we're just looking at the southern plains. And look at some of these numbers. Really impressive. We're talking about likely a foot maybe, 5 to 10 for sure across central Oklahoma. There could be a corridor northeast of Oklahoma City. So we're getting into the Tulsa region where we could be talking about a foot to a foot and a half of snow when all is said and done between, again, Friday and Monday. And then notice how the snow totals kind of drop off and dip off a little bit once you get more so into central and southern Texas. south of DFW, Austin area, San Antonio, no snow expected at all. The reason being is because, remember, that's where we have a little bit more warm, mild air coming off the Gulf mixed with the cold, and so that equals freezing rain, sleet potential, ice potential, and some big time ice at that. So here's a look at total ice accumulations, and you're going to notice spots like Oklahoma be the southern part of this system that we have the freezing rain, the sleet, the ice taking place, and some really high freezing rain ice accumulations here possible. It takes about 1/10 of an inch or so of ice to cause big problems. We could be talking a lot more than that across North Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, getting down into the Austin area. 1/4 of an inch of ice not completely out of the question. And then right now it looks like there could be sort of a hot zone or more of an enhanced area of significant, potentially crippling, devastating ice potential across southern Arkansas, Little Rock South, where we could be talking about over 1 inch of ice or more between when things start on Friday and wrap up on Monday. So a big deal for sure, both in terms of snow and ice. It sort of just depends on where you are. Pick your poison, so to speak. Central Oklahoma northward, going to be dealing with a lot more of the heavy snow into northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri. You get south of there, Red River, Dallas, Fort Worth, eastward into parts of Arkansas, northern Louisiana, going to be dealing more with the significant, potentially crippling ice that will be at play with this system. So it is going to be a big problem across the southern plains. Remember, this is just one region that we looked at, what we've spent 20, 25 minutes just looking at the central and southern plains. There's a lot more to get to, including the southeast and the northeast as well. So it is going to be a big storm, and it is going to be a big headache for a lot of folks for a lot of days to come. All right, let's switch sector views for a second. And I want to go now over to do that, and we'll kind of do exactly what we just did a second ago with the central and the southern plains, where we talked about timing and precipitation type and then looked at totals. And we'll do that now again just a little bit further east. So I know so many of you have questions about where you live, where you are, what to expect. I promise you, we're going to go region by region here so you know exactly what to expect, at least in the general region that you live. And then hopefully from that point, we can get a little bit more into some of your questions and comments that you may have. And we're going to do kind of a hard reset at the top of the hour, coming up at 6 o'clock Central, where we start over, talk about the system as a whole and the impacts that it's going to be bringing. So switching sector views, we've moved east now. We talked about Oklahoma. We talked about Texas. We'll talk about you again, but now we're going to talk about the Ohio Valley for a little bit and what to expect there. Remember, timing's going to be just a bit further down the road. Still thinking this weekend, but onset is likely going to be more so on Saturday morning instead of Friday afternoon, and Friday night, like we were talking about Oklahoma down through Texas. So let's start first, of course, with how we expect things to sort of play out. And we're going to look at the HRRR, and that is the High Resolution Rapid Refresh Model. And this is a look at the 18Z. Not the biggest fan of using the HRRR when it comes to winter weather forecasting, but I think it gives us an idea here. And when you have a system that's this big, this dynamic, this powerful, it's going to be a little bit tough to get super specific. And we will do that eventually, but I just want to give you a general idea, a broad scale idea of what to expect. So let's start first with the weather here across the Ohio Valley. And for those of you who are wondering, is that you? Do you live in Kentucky? Do you live in Tennessee? How about Mississippi, Alabama, Eastern Arkansas? If so, then yes, pay attention, turn the volume up, because this part of the forecast is going to be just for you as we look at how this powerhouse winter storm is going to be impacting your area. First of all, today, Thursday, rest of tonight, weather's quiet. Could be a couple of showers here across parts of central Georgia, down through parts of central Alabama. But other than that, things are pretty quiet. Remember, though, the cold is on the way, and that cold is going to be setting the stage for our winter weather. The cold is not the only thing that's going to be coming into play here. We also have, again, a little bit of warmth that's coming up off the Gulf that's going to arrive, especially into parts of Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee. And that warmth overspreading the cold is going to create the problems when it comes to ice, if that makes sense, right? When you talk about just a very cold layer, it's all snow. But when you have different and multiple layers through your atmosphere of a warm nose and then you get some cold air, that's where we start talking a little bit about the ice and the icy accumulations taking place. Okay, so let's go through this. Here's Friday. Friday morning, you're waking up. Things are quiet, but it is getting cold. That Arctic front is moving in. Temperatures are going to be dropping. Look how cold it's going to be as you get into Friday morning here across, look how quickly it gets cold too. Very, very cold air coming into spots like Chicago. Friday morning, we're 10 below. How about in Lexington, Kentucky, about 25 degrees. So that cold air is moving in Friday throughout the day, but there is a battle zone that's taking place, that's clashing, where you have cold air, obviously the bitterly cold air across northern Illinois, even stretching into southern Illinois, parts of northern Kentucky. We're talking single-digit temperatures, but look how mild it still is on Friday afternoon across parts of northern Alabama and Mississippi. Temperatures are still in the 40s, so mild relatively speaking. So this is going to be a problem because you have an Arctic air mass moving in from the north, clashing with some of that mild warm air from the Gulf, those two overspreading each other, and then that storm system moving in. That right there is going to be your recipe for really significant and major ice problems. So let's get back over to our hour-by-hour forecast as we kind of look at the precipitation type here. And we will do that now. All right, so getting back into Friday. The weather's quiet, right, most of Friday here across the Ohio Valley, aside from a couple of showers across the low country, the Carolinas. Weather is still pretty quiet. But do keep in mind that it is going to be starting to get chilly with that cold air moving in from the north. Also quite breezy. Notice those very tight lines. Those are isobars. The closer they are together, the breezier it is. So it's going to be windy. It'll be getting colder with that Arctic front clashing with the mild air here from the Gulf. Then what happens? Okay, here comes our storm system that's moving out of the Central Plains. This is now Saturday morning, and here comes our first round of southern Missouri. We talked about Arkansas. Arkansas looks like it could actually take kind of a beating from this system. Saturday morning or so, you have heavy amounts of snow across northern Arkansas. And then again, as you start to get a little closer to the Little Rock area, it's sleet and freezing rain, and then all freezing rain likely across southern Arkansas. What happens after that? Well, of course, our system's going to progress further east. We'll switch over model runs here just for a second so we can go a little bit further out, and we're using the 18Z Euro here. Okay, so boom. This is now Saturday afternoon, and the winter weather has arrived across the Ohio Valley. Remember, where we have that Arctic cold air that's going to be in place, right? Where you have the very chilly temperatures that are going to be potentially sub-zero, is where you're going to be dealing with all snow throughout the day here, starting late Saturday, continuing through Sunday. We're talking about most of central Kentucky, most of parts of Indiana, through Illinois. Again, the further north you go, snow totals drop off a little bit. The intensity and the snow rates start to drop off a little bit. But where we're most concerned about in terms of freezing rain and ice, and you know why, because I explained it to you. You have the clashing of those air masses, the bitter cold from the north, the mild air overrunning that from the Gulf, here across parts of central to northern Mississippi, through much of central Tennessee. We're talking about major freezing rain concerns and ice meaning. So notice the deeper pink colors that you see showing up. That's where you have high freezing rain rates, potentially crippling ice amounts that are going to be taking place. And this is a slow moving system as well. So even as we get into Boy, look at this. Even as we get into, again, Sunday morning, we talked about the impact starting late Saturday, continuing through the day on Sunday. You have just an absolute mix of heavy amounts of rain and sleet, freezing rain taking place across the south to southeast, and some really big problems here north of there where you have just a straight cold air in place. So what could the radar look like when you wake up on Sunday morning across the Ohio Valley? Well, here's sort of a picture, right? If you live in a spot like Lexington, it's going to be a mix of sleet and freezing rain. North of there, northern Kentucky, Cincinnati, it's going to be heavy amounts of snow. As you get south, that clashing of the air masses, you have the mix taking place of freezing rain and likely even some plain old rain taking place, some sleet in there as well, and crippling amounts of ice. This system stays at play and is with us pretty much through the entire day on Sunday. Could even see some strong thunderstorms here with potentially a line of storms developing across central to southern Alabama before things finally wrap up on Monday here across the Ohio Valley. And then the system will crawl northeastward and move into the I-95 corridor. And we're talking about some of those big northeast cities that are going to be coming into play here. So yeah, some big problems for sure in terms of impacts across the Ohio Valley. I do want to quickly show you what's happening. It is 5:50. We'll get ready to reset and kind of start over and then get more specific. But I do want to show you real quick the Northeast, which again, pretty much all the Northeast here this afternoon is underneath a winter storm watch. Your weather is good, aside from some snow showers, light snow showers across the Berkshires, dipping back through parts of upstate New York over Friday, Saturday, light accumulations. But other than that, your weather's fine. It's going to be late Sunday. Here comes Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday. Almost looks like a nor'easter, doesn't it? It's not quite, but it is going to be bringing, again, heavy amounts of snow. Washington, D.C., Boston, Manchester, New Hampshire, Portland, Maine, all dealing with heavy amounts of snow throughout Monday morning before this whole system finally moves off the coast away from the country and out to sea, out in the Atlantic, it looks like, by Tuesday. So, yeah, a lot of big problems. One thing I didn't do, and I want to go back and do it for you quickly here, is get back over to the Ohio Valley and talk amounts for a second, because I realized I skipped and forgot to do that. And again, these are subject to change, by the way. Today is Thursday. We're not talking about major impacts, at least in the Ohio Valley, until we get really Saturday night to Sunday. But regardless, I do want to show you what we're thinking in terms of first snow. So here's a look at potential snowfall totals across the Ohio Valley. Would love to show a range. Unfortunately, this system here doesn't necessarily let me show a range. But this makes sense, doesn't it? Where you have the bitterly cold air that's going to be already locked into place, right? There's no fighting between warm and cold air, is where we're going to have the really high snowfall total. So a wide swath from southern Missouri, southern parts of Illinois, southern Indiana, into most of Ohio and central and northern Kentucky, of 5 to 10 inches widespread, and then potentially a bullseye here of up to a foot or more, Lexington westward to about Louisville. Notice what happens in Nashville. You're thinking to yourself, okay, am I not getting any snow out of this besides maybe, a half of an inch or snow or so? Again, it's going to be more about the ice for you, and the significant ice at that, because we are dealing with the battle zone of the warm versus cold air that's going to be coming into play. So notice total ice accumulations here. Nashville area could potentially be up to half of an inch, higher end up to an inch. Memphis likely dealing with up to maybe half of an inch to an inch of crippling ice. Northern Georgia, Atlanta dealing with ice. The Carolinas also dealing with ice, because that's where we have kind of the battle zone that's going to be taking place with, again, a lot of the air mass clashes, so to speak. I'm just going through the comments. I'm making sure the stream's still working now as we get ready to approach the top of the hour. And then we'll do a reset and start all over and kind of just go from the beginning, talking about this whole storm system and what to expect. So we'll take this last couple of 5 minutes or so between now and 6 o'clock Central, and I'll go through some of the comments. Again, thank you everybody for watching. This is a really tough storm system to cover, by the way. It's a tough storm system to cover, number one, because there's so much real estate at play. You have most of the country, I would argue, that's going to be dealing with this in one way or another. And so, you know, when we have severe weather, usually it's a smaller or mesoscale part of the country where we can kind of answer some of your questions. I can really get down to counties, towns. We can do that a little bit here, but it's hard when there is so much real estate to cover. But that's why we're here. This is why we're doing this stream and continuous coverage of this system all night long. I want to try for a second to... I've been working on, if any of you know EpicPen, it's kind of the tool that is used and is helpful to draw. And that would be so helpful to be able to draw on the screen, but I can't seem to do it, and that's okay. We can work without it. But Lauren says Northwest Arkansas. We'll talk about Northwest Arkansas. It looks like a lot of snow for you and likely some ice as well. A lot of questions about Kansas City, questions about Oklahoma City. We're going to do a hard reset here coming up at the top of the hour, which is in 5 minutes. And we're going to be talking all about this system. We're going to break it down region by region. And I think what we can actually do this time is I want to focus more so on the states that I think are going to be impacted maybe the very most. And there's a couple. I think it's going to be Oklahoma for sure, as well as Texas, Arkansas, and then into parts of Kentucky. Those are the states that I think are going to be hit the hardest maybe by this. And so, again, getting ready to do kind of a reset here at the top of the hour as we prepare to go into more full coverage right now of a historic, crippling, blockbuster storm system that is on the way for a lot of the country. And we'll talk about where this system is right now. It's actually still all the way out in Southern California. However, you know, with that being said, it is not going to take very long to move east. We have another day to prepare for this one. And then things are going to get messy, and they're going to get messy very quickly. And unfortunately, you know, with the cold air that's going to be coming into place with this, I think that it is going to be, again, a problem for days to come when it comes to just the cleanup effort alone with this. So, you know, big problems to come. All right, so it is 3:57 now, and we're going to restart coverage, getting into our next hour of complete coverage now of a powerful and major winter storm that is on the way. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Chad Curley, and we are talking all about winter weather and the winter weather that's on the way. You've likely heard about this storm system by now. There's a ton of coverage all over social media. You want to make sure you're getting your coverage from a reputable source. You want to make sure you're not using the weather app on your phone. Your local TV station, great source. Your local meteorologist is a great source. I'm a great source. TikTok is a great source if you have the right person. And so you want to make sure that they have some background in meteorology, especially when you deal with the system that is this complex. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, it is now about 6 o'clock Central. Many of you are getting off work, getting home, and I want to restart coverage of our powerful winter storm that is on the way for a lot of the country. And let's begin here this evening with a look at the watches and warnings that are in place, and they are expansive. So to start, we have a winter storm warning that's in place anywhere that you see in pink. So notice, winter storm warning now for most of central into southern Kansas. This does include Kansas City. This gets into Missouri. This includes Columbia down to Jefferson City, Springfield. Pretty much the entire state of Arkansas is underneath a winter storm warning. And yes, this may actually give you flashbacks to the big 2021 snowstorm and cold outbreak in Texas that caused so many problems. Similar setup. Hopefully they're a little bit more prepared this time. Hopefully the power grid is more prepared. But notice in pink, again, winter storm warning in place now for pretty much all of Texas, with the exception of extreme southeast Texas, which is underneath a winter storm watch in Houston. And then down through southern Texas, no watches, warnings, or advisories at this point yet. So in pink, if you live somewhere in pink, you are underneath a winter storm warning already, a couple of days out from this system. How about in blue? If you live in blue, and this includes a lot of the Northeast, some of our big Northeast cities, and let me pull the screen over a little. If you live anywhere in blue, that is a winter storm watch. So Boston, New York City, the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., is underneath a winter storm watch already out ahead of this system. However, you will likely be upgraded to a winter storm warning eventually as well with time, as we get about 48 hours or so out from impacts from this one moving in. So winter storm warnings in pink, winter storm watches in blue. We also are dealing with extreme cold, which of course is going to be a big part of this system. I want to show you our cold weather advisories and warnings that we have in place right now. We'll turn off our winter storm warnings for just a second and our winter storm watches. And we'll show you just the cold that we have in place. And there are a lot of cold weather advisories and warnings. They kind of changed the wording up on us here over the past year or so. All right, so check this out. We have a cold weather advisory anywhere that you see shaded here in, I would call that almost an aqua color. That includes a lot of the central into northern plains. And then you have extreme cold warnings for the southern plains, including most of Oklahoma underneath an extreme cold warning. And by the way, if you want to know specifics on that, what they're saying is wind chills below 17 or at or below 17 below, if that makes sense. And this goes into effect on midnight Friday through 9 a.m. on Monday. Extreme cold warning drops south. It includes all of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then we also have extreme cold watches in place for central into southern Texas, so Austin, San Antonio, underneath extreme cold watches. How about into the Northeast? Also have cold weather advisories and extreme cold warnings here that extend into Maine, Boston, New York City underneath a cold weather advisory. So I know there's probably a little confusion. Well, what's the difference? Cold weather advisory, cold weather warning. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just know that there are cold alerts across most of, actually all of the central U.S. and a good part of the Northeast. That brings me into my next point, which of course is the setup for this powerhouse storm system. And you're going to have to bear with me in some of my amateur drawing for just a second, but I just want to explain to you why this system is going to be so significant and so powerful. So there's actually three different components at play here. And we'll start first with a Canadian area of high pressure. We can even call this the polar vortex if you want. This is going to be the source of the very, very cold air that is going to be diving south here over the next day or two. In fact, it's already across parts of the upper Midwest. Check out these actual air temperatures, not wind chills. Right now it is 17 degrees below zero, 20 in Grand Forks, 13 below in Bismarck. That's a little chilly. You might need a jacket. sarcasm there, 11 below in St. Paul, and you can see that cold continues to spread south as well. So now spots like Topeka are at freezing, Kansas City 32, Jefferson City is sitting at 30. And so that's kind of source number one, right? Is for all this to come together with our storm system is the extreme cold that we have in place. And so that the source of that is from our Canadian high pressure system or polar vortex that's diving south. So very cold air here across parts of the upper Midwest and northern plains. That cold air is going to move south over the next day or two. At the same time, and this is important, we actually have mild air that is spreading in from the Gulf. And so this is the reason why we have temperatures that are right now sitting at 62 degrees in Baton Rouge, lower 50s in Montgomery. Again, relatively speaking, this is mild. 48 in Birmingham, 55 in Shreveport. Dallas is at 55 degrees. So you get the idea. There's a big battle going on right now. You have the very cold air up to the north, our Canadian high pressure system, that polar vortex that oftentimes actually spreads more due east instead of south, but in this case, it's going to be dropping straight south. So high pressure, cold air, mild air that's spreading in from the Gulf. And then on top of that, we have a storm system that is developing here and getting its act together across the Southwest. That is right now near Los Angeles and San Diego. It isn't all that impressive, but it will be getting stronger as it spreads into the Four Corners region. So what's going to happen next here over the next couple of days? Well, this our low pressure system, right? So here it is. It's going to be moving east. That's sort of the general track that it's going to be taking. And now you can see why we have problems. We have big cold that's coming in from the north. That'll be the source of snow. And then we have mild air that's going to continue to overspread from the south and southeast. That'll be the source of our freezing rain, because you're going to have a mix of cold coming in from the north, clashing with that mild air from the south. On top of that, we have a low pressure system moving in from the west, and that is just going to be the triggering mechanism, the forcing mechanism, if you will, for this powerhouse storm system. All those ingredients are going to combine over the center part of the country, creating big problems in terms of a blockbuster winter storm, and that whole area is going to spread north and northeast into some of our big I-95 corridor cities, Boston, New York City, down to Washington, D.C. What does our storm system look like right now, by the way? It isn't all that impressive. In fact, take a peek. Here it is out in Southern California. You can see that little spin that you have, that counterclockwise spin. That is west of Ensenada, Mexico, west of San Diego. It's bringing some unsettled, kind of gloomy weather there. But that's the storm system that's going to be moving east and combining with those ingredients that I talked about just a few minutes ago, which is, of course, our cold air from the north, mild air from the south, runs into that low pressure system. You have a recipe for big snow and then big time ice accumulation. So with that being said, we talked about our watches and warnings that we have in place, the winter storm warnings that are expansive. We talked a little bit about the setup, where the storm system is right now. Let's start getting into the forecast a little bit more. And in this instance, I want to go specifically into the central and southern plains and talk a little bit about what to expect there. So this encompasses all of Oklahoma. This encompasses North Texas, the Texas Panhandle as well. And we're going to go hour by hour together and show you what to expect. So obviously weather is nice, quiet, and dry here over the next couple of days. And really today and most of tomorrow are going to be just fine. But noon, you start to see a couple of different things happening, right? So first of all, that cold air has finally arrived in central Oklahoma. The cold air is there, and it's going to be creating a lot of issues in terms of giving us that source for the snow. So it is possible that by Friday afternoon, so here's 2 p.m. On Friday afternoon, we're starting to deal with, whoa, let's back up there for just a second. So here is 1 o'clock on Friday. Some very light snow flurries are possible. It's all rain across North Texas. Dallas, it's rain for you. Wichita Falls, it's rain Friday afternoon. You could probably go to work just fine tomorrow, but be prepared that your drive home is going to start to get a little bit dicey if you live in southwest Oklahoma. So here we are now, Friday, 5 o'clock. This is about 24 hours or so out from now. And you can see we're dealing with a mix of freezing rain and sleet that's starting in Childress, down through Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, Stillwater, Tulsa, starting to see some minor issues when it comes mainly to freezing rain and sleet. There could be a couple of snow flurries mixed in there as well. That's not completely out of the question. So we'll call it a mixed bag of wintry weather here Friday afternoon. Particularly across the central and southern plains, there are going to be two distinct rounds of winter weather. What we're looking at right now is round number 1. So if you go to work tomorrow, if you live in North Texas, Dallas, you're going to be just fine throughout the day. You can go to work on Friday and not have to worry about running in any winter weather on your drive home from work, Dallas, Fort Worth. Oklahoma City, Stillwater, Tulsa, how about Elk City, Childress? Be prepared that as you start to drive home tomorrow, you may be running into a little bit of problems in the way of wintry weather that is starting to develop, right? And so we're not getting into the full brunt of this system yet. I would say, though, by 7 p.m., here we are, a little more than 24 hours out now, 7 p.m. on Friday, central Oklahoma is now going to be in the thick of round number 1. So look at Oklahoma City. You see that purple? That's what the radar is picking up as sleet. The computer model is trying to pick up a little bit of sleet there. So yeah, I think sleet is likely. And again, as you drop south, Wichita Falls, sleet could be a little bit of freezing rain. And then anywhere north of there, across northern Oklahoma into central Kansas, it's light to moderate snow. Round number 1 here. How about as we get towards 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight here, on Saturday, temperatures will continue to cool. So this is now midnight on Saturday, if you want to call it late Friday night. We've switched over in central Oklahoma from sleet and freezing rain to all snow, and the snow is likely going to be the heaviest in the area where we're right between the sleet and snow line, if that makes sense. So just north of there is where we're going to be contending with more than likely the heaviest amounts of snow that are going to be taking place. So obviously here across central Oklahoma, Tulsa, into southwest Missouri, Joplin, southern Kansas, Wichita, late Friday night, Saturday morning early, big problems in terms of snow. And really, this first kind of round rotates through and stays in place through Saturday, let's say 10, 11 a.m., and then we get a break. So round number 1 across central and the southern plains is going to be late Friday night and into early Saturday morning. So central, southern plains, here's a bigger picture. Again, late Friday night, and then early Saturday morning is when you have round number 1 taking place. And again, you're seeing a lot of different colors on the map with this first round number 1 across the southern plains. And all that is where you have the Arctic high pressure, the cold air that's going to be for sure locked into place. We're talking temperatures 10s and 20s. It's going to be all snow. A little bit south of there, where you're dealing with the battle between the mild air and the cold air that's trying to sink south, is where you have more of that mixing taking place. But again, round number 1, late Friday through early Saturday morning across the central and the southern plains, and then we get a break, it looks like, potentially through a good part of the midday hours on Saturday, a break for central Texas, Oklahoma, into Kansas. However, there's going to be more snow to come. Let's check it out. We'll switch over to a little bit longer range model. And again, right now we're using the 18Z Euro for this. And I want to get just back down for a second to Oklahoma, and particularly the Southern Plains. So there's round number one kind of moving by late Friday into early Saturday morning. We could get a break midday Saturday. The Euro isn't particularly sold on that. I do think that there is going to be a pretty big lull in the activity across central Oklahoma, North Texas, southern Kansas, midday Saturday, southwest Missouri included on that. But then we get another push. This is actually an upper level system that starts to work in. By Saturday afternoon, Saturday night in particular, we're back in the heavy winter weather for most of central Oklahoma through the Texas Panhandle, getting into, again, southern Kansas, southwest Missouri, dealing with round number two, again, late Saturday, continuing through early Sunday morning. Periods of moderate snow continue, high snow total rates at times, and then things finally dry out, clear out, but stay cold. And we're talking particularly now just for, again, the Southern Plains on Sunday. So that's what it looks like from an Oklahoma standpoint. Here is a regional view. And again, you can see there goes round number one, late Friday into Saturday morning. Could get a little break midday Saturday. Upper level support comes in. It looks like by Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. And then there's round number two that pushes through. And then things dry out by late Sunday into Monday across the central and southern plains. So that was a look. And again, the reason I zoomed in so closely there on central Oklahoma is because I wanted to give everybody kind of an idea of precipitation type. I want to do the same now for Texas, and then we'll kind of just play around a little bit, and then we can go over to totals, look a little bit about totals. Somebody in the comments mentioned that the governor of Mississippi just declared a state of emergency. There are going to be a lot of state of emergencies declared with this one. Texas, I know, already has a state of emergency in place. That is strictly, again, just to clear up funds in the wake of this system to help and assist with any cleanup that's going to be coming into play. So let's look at Texas now for a second, and we can talk timing and precipitation type. I think this is the easiest way to do it, right? Because I see so many of you asking questions about where you live, and in a severe weather type event and situation, it's easy to do that because we can kind of zone in and narrow in on a particular area, because usually severe weather events, it can be broad, but it's usually only a couple of states. With this, it is so many states, and rightfully so many of you have questions. So I think the easiest way to do this is going to be kind of to bounce from state to state for a little while, show you what to expect in terms of precipitation type and timing, and then also totals. I saw somebody, I think on YouTube, asked about ice totals. I do want to at least show you expectations real quick, since we were talking Oklahoma a second ago about ice totals in particular, for snow and ice totals in particular for Oklahoma. I want to, just so I'm just, not throwing out numbers at you from different random model runs, which we all kind of preach against, right, in the weather community. I'm going to try to pull from the national blend of models and see what they have here and see if it's in line with what I'm thinking of what to expect. So here's a look at potential snow totals in Oklahoma between now and when things wrap up late Sunday into Monday. Remember, it's two waves. First one's going to come tomorrow night to Saturday. Could be a brief lull here. Southern Kansas, Oklahoma, midday Saturday. Another push of heavy wintry precipitation Saturday night, and then continuing into early Sunday morning, and then things wrap up on Sunday afternoon. Here's a look at snow total potential here in Oklahoma between now say now, when things really start, and then when they wrap up on late Sunday. And check it out, bullseye there. It looks like north of Oklahoma City. You go, I-35 north of Oklahoma City. Could be talking about a foot and a half, Ponca City, over a foot, maybe 13 inches or so in Stillwater, crippling amounts of snow in Enid as well. Tulsa likely looking at about, let's say 10 to 12. Oklahoma City probably more so in the range of, let's say 7 to about a foot or so. And then notice how the snow totals kind of drop off as you head south into southern Oklahoma. Reason being, of course, is because you run into some of that warmer air that mixes in, that clashing of the air masses, and so you deal more with the frozen precip in terms of ice, as well as freezing rain. So that's why totals there are still a little bit lower, but obviously still impressive. Lawton talking about 5 to 10 inches. Amarillo, Childress, about 5 to 10 or so. Now, how about ice, specifically for Oklahoma? And again, really interesting when you look at this, right? Oklahoma City northward, so Ponca City, Enid, Bartlesville, Tulsa, probably not going to be seeing any ice at all. No freezing rain. More than likely, that's because the air is going to be so cold up there already. The precipitation type is really mainly going to be just snow. And by the way, Caitlin said, can you show me snow totals north Nashville? Yes, we'll get there. I'm going to go state by state here with you. I think that might be the best way to do it because so many of you, rightfully so, have questions about snow totals and ice totals where you live. And I'll try to do this a little faster than what we did with Oklahoma, but we'll go state by state so you can see precisely where you live, what totals can be expected. And a word of caution for everybody, as you kind of scroll through TikTok here over the next couple of days, there's going to be a lot of people streaming this storm system, giving information about this storm system, throwing model runs at you without looking at them. Kind of amateur meteorologists or media meteorologists, so to speak. Not saying you have to have a degree to know what you're talking about, but you want to make sure that as you consume your weather information that you're getting it from a reputable source. So the people who are telling you that 30 inches of snow are going to fall, probably not the most reputable. Somebody who doesn't or hasn't been doing this professionally, I would say let them sit this out, stick with a trusted source. I'm a good source. I'll be here. It's been a little bit since I've done a TikTok live, but this system is so significant, so powerful. I wanted to get back up and running, let you know what's going on. So stick with reputable sources. Your local TV meteorologist is a reputable source, by the way. I want to keep you here, I want to keep you watching, but also want to keep you safe and let you know National Weather Service, local TV meteorologists, and the meteorologists that you trust on TikTok and any other social media are reputable, and YouTube, of course, but just make sure you're getting, reputable sources here. Okay, back through, somebody said Lee Summit. We're going to finish Oklahoma, we're going to jump down to Texas, and then we're going to look at Kansas and Missouri by themselves alone. And Lee Summit, I'll tell you what to expect, but I can tell you just by kind of looking at some of the forecasts from my old colleagues over at KMBC, they're forecasting about 5 to 6 inches, I think, for Lee Summit, but we'll look at that, and I trust them 100%. All right, so Oklahoma. This is interesting. Remember, I was telling you, north of Oklahoma City, you're probably not going to get any ice. The cold air is already in place. It's going to be all snow. South of there, we're talking Lawton, McAllister, but a tenth to maybe a quarter of an inch of ice. That's going to cause big problems for sure. Let's jump down to Texas now, give you really specific information on what to expect in Texas. We'll talk timing and we'll talk amounts. And let's get back over to the HRRR, first of all. And kind of like Oklahoma, there's going to be a couple of different rounds of wintry weather. The first one late tomorrow into Saturday, break midday Saturday, another round coming in Saturday night into Sunday. This is 18Z HRRR. Again, I don't love the HRRR for winter weather forecasting, but it's what we have right now. And I'm knowledgeable enough to be able to kind of decipher what is accurate versus what maybe is not and is a bias. But okay, here we go, Texas. We're looking at tomorrow morning. You wake up, Dallas, Fort Worth. It's going to be raining. There's going to be some drizzle out there. Austin, you'll have some low cloud cover likely in place as well. Here's Friday at noon. Again, still dealing with liquid precip. Could be some moderate rain at times, but isn't going to be a big deal. Mainly going to be an overcast day. Then things start to change a little bit for us here as we get into central into North Texas once the sun sets Friday night. Colder air starts to arrive, and at least for Dallas and in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're still dealing with liquid precip through much of Friday night. That means rain. The switchover takes place in Dallas sometime early Saturday morning, probably in the range of 2 to 4 a.m. And in Dallas, at first, it's likely going to be a little bit of freezing rain that's going to take place south of there along the I-35 corridor, Waco, Killeen, Austin, Saturday morning, 3, 4 a.m. You're going to be just fine. Liquid precip expected, only rain. Although it does look like by daybreak on Saturday, Dallas, Plano, Weatherford, it's a mix of sleet and freezing rain. Round number 1. South of there, College Station, Austin, still fine into Saturday morning. So by the way, if you live in Austin, if you live in College Station, the Woodlands, Houston, you're fine all tomorrow. You're fine all tomorrow night. You're good into early Saturday morning. You don't have to cancel any of your Friday night plans. You're good to go do whatever it is that you want to do and not have to worry about the weather in terms of winter weather. It'll be raining, though, from time to time. Okay, now let's get back to our 18Z Euro here. And again, showing you what we just talked about, which is a little bit of freezing rain likely taking place. The switch over early Saturday morning, Dallas-Fort Worth northward, south of there, Waco, Killeen, Austin. It's all going to be rain. And this first round, at least for North Texas into Central Texas, not necessarily going to be a huge deal, I don't think. Obviously, roadways are going to be slippery, and anytime there is winter weather in Texas, it is a big deal. But the second round that's going to start to come in here Saturday night is going to cause more problems for Texas when the upper level support starts to arrive. So here's 6 p.m. on Saturday, Dallas, Weatherford, Sherman, up to the Red River, Wichita Falls, all back dealing with, of course, freezing rain. It looks like there could be a little sleet, but this looks like it'll be mainly freezing rain. Still Austin, College Station, dealing with rain. And then here comes the switchover. It looks like for the rest of central into southern Texas. So it looks like by early Sunday morning, it is going to be pretty bad out there for Dallas, where we will have at that point had freezing rain for several hours. We're going to have pockets of moderate to heavy freezing rain from Waco, Killeen, down through Austin early Sunday morning. What's the saving grace here? It's not a work day. It's a weekend. It's the middle of the night. Most people will probably be home. And then things may finally kind of wrap up a little bit. Dallas with a bit of snow early Sunday morning before the system pulls out of here, but you'll still be dealing with the cold. Okay, how about amounts? We're going to go back over to our blend of models from the National Weather Service. And here's first a look at total snowfall. You're not going to be that impressed. Here's a look at the total snowfall with this system across central to North Texas. Maybe an inch or two for Dallas. It's not a whole lot, right? Austin, you may not get any snow at all out of this one. Same with College Station. Probably not going to get much snow at all. The reason why is because, remember, Texas is one of those states with this system that is battling some of the warm air that's coming up off the Gulf that's riding over the cold air. And so that's where you end up with the big freezing rain column and ice columns. Now I'm going to show you the ice totals, and I think you're going to be a little bit more impressed and potentially concerned. So this is a look at how much freezing rain we could see out of the system across central and into North Texas. 1/4 of an inch of freezing rain in Dallas. is going to pretty much put all traffic to a standstill. You may not necessarily get the big power lines down or big power disruptions here with a 1/4 inch of ice in Dallas, Plano, but travel is going to be pretty much halted. Austin may get a little bit less than 1/10 inch or so of freezing rain and ice. You know, again, it causes about 1/10 inch to cause significant problems when we refer to freezing rain. In a place like Austin, Texas, when you get any freezing rain, it'll cause some problems. There's going to be a corridor here of higher ice totals across eastern Texas. So Paris, Tyler could get close to about maybe 1/2 inch or so of freezing rain. Texarkana might be right at that 1/2 inch of freezing rain. So we did Oklahoma, we did Texas. Next state I want to jump into is Missouri and Kansas. We can do, we'll look at, let's look at Missouri. And so this is going to include, obviously, Kansas City, Columbia, Clinton, Rolla, Springfield, Joplin, all are going to be part of this forecast here. And so somebody said, how much snow is Denton going to get? Denton may only see about 1 inch or so of snow. Your freezing rain, that's ice accumulation, are going to be higher, up to 1/4 inch. And somebody said that's not a lot. You have to remember, a place like Texas is not accustomed to winter weather. Yes, you probably get a little winter weather every year in Texas, but when you talk about 1/4 inch of ice, that's a big deal. 1/10 inch of ice in a place that experiences winter weather is a big deal. So the snow may not be a huge significant problem, but the ice certainly will be. All right, we're talking Missouri now, and I know that I want to get back over to the HRRR, and we're going to jump down to Arkansas, and then we'll talk a little bit more about potentially the Southeast. And the reason I haven't talked a lot about the Northeast yet is just because the details there are not quite as clear. They're still a little murky. Winter storm watches are in place. This will be an issue for Boston, New York, Washington, D.C. eventually down the road, just not quite yet. All right, we're back and we're looking at Missouri. So just like Oklahoma and also just like Texas, which we looked at, there's going to be 2 rounds of winter weather that we're expecting here. Now, difference between Oklahoma and Texas, when we look at Missouri's forecast, is it's mainly going to be snow as the predominant precipitation type. And the reason why is because the air is going to be so cold. You're not dealing with that battle of the air masses with the warm air coming up off the Gulf and then the cold air from the north. You strictly are going to have bitterly cold air that's going to be in place. How cold? Let's show you. Look at where temperatures go as we get into early tomorrow morning. This is at 8 a.m. You're waking up in Columbia, Missouri, and it's 7 degrees. In Kansas City, it's 8. It's 13 in Clinton. So yeah, we're not going to have a problem with getting snow to fall with this system across most of eastern Kansas and through pretty much the entire state of Missouri because of how cold it's going to be. The deal is the ice is going to stay south of most of these areas. So overall, I would actually say the further north you go with this system, the less impactful I think it's going to be. But regardless, let's kind of go through the forecast together, walk you through what to expect. So again, we're dry through the rest of tonight, but that Arctic air mass arrives early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Notice how close those isobars are together across Missouri. It's going to be windy. You're going to have temperatures that'll be in the single digits and wind chills that'll be well below 0. So it is going to be dangerously cold tomorrow morning from St. Louis all the way west on I-70 to Columbia and Kansas City. Still dry in all of the Show Me State through from the west. So light snow showers ongoing in Topeka, it looks like, by 6 o'clock on Friday. Let me pull that up just a little bit. And then the first round number one of snow starts to arrive Friday night. So by 9, 10 o'clock, if you have Friday night plans in a place like Kansas City, down through about Joplin, you're starting to deal with a little bit of, this is light snow at first. So onset's going to be light, especially Kansas City, St. Joseph. Might be a little heavier Springfield to Joplin Friday night. And then you deal with periods of light to moderate snow in Kansas City, across central Missouri, Columbia, most of Friday night through Saturday morning. Snowfall rates are going to be a tiny bit higher, again, across southwest Missouri. Joplin, Springfield with this first round that continues. And it kind of lingers through, again, midday Saturday. So for most of Missouri, you're going to be dealing with your first round of snow late Friday night through about midday on Saturday. It's going to be heaviest across southwest Missouri with this first round along I-44 corridor. So let's say Rolla, Springfield, Joplin, probably going to be dealing with snowfall rates that are a tiny bit higher with round number one, late Friday into Saturday, and then this midday break on Saturday that we're expecting before we start to get our upper level support that's going to come in here on Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. So, all right, we're switching model runs here just so we can pull it out a little bit further. So there's round number one, and it kind of lulls out a little bit midday Saturday, and then round number two pushes in Saturday night through Sunday morning. So the timestamp on this is Sunday at midnight. And round number two is going to be most significant, again, closer to where the actual low pressure system or the center of the storm, when we have our boundary, is going to be, which is across southwest Missouri near the I-44 corridor. So round number two going to be more significant in spots like, say, Neosho, Joplin on the Kansas side, Pittsburgh, Iola, Bartlesville in northeast Oklahoma, Springfield, Rolla, St. Louis is starting to get in here on this round number two. Late Saturday night through Sunday morning. That continues through about sunrise on Sunday, and then things sort of wind down in Missouri Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. How about amounts for Missouri? And we're going to show you snow and ice, but remember what I said just a little bit ago, and that is just that because the air is going to be so cold up here, you know, it's going to be all snow. I'll show you ice regardless, but here's a look at snowfall potential between now and when things wrap up, which we know. This is honestly a little bit aggressive. Kansas City, Columbia, you know, I think 8 is probably on the higher end of things. Columbia, 7.5, probably on the higher end of things. My forecast would maybe be more 4 to 6, isolated 7. Along the I-70 corridor from Kansas City to Columbia to St. Louis. I think that the 8 might be pushing it just a bit. Southwest Missouri, though, I think this is a little more accurate. So Springfield, Joplin, along the I-44 corridor, even into southeast Kansas, Iola, more than likely going to be in the, let's say, 8 to 12 range with this, kind of with a median around 9.2. You see there Joplin, 9.2 for Springfield. And again, I think that that is probably going to be a tiny bit more accurate than, you know, the northern end of these totals, which I just think it's a little aggressive. Kansas City, Columbia, 7.5, 8.2. I'd say more 5 to 6. Isolated 7. I'm just going to check the chat here for a second, see how we're doing. let's see. Somebody said, what's it look like in Lee's Summit? I would say your snow range in Lee's Summit, about 4 to 6, isolated 7. Pushing, I don't know. I'm not sure that I would go as far as 8, maybe. NBM seems to think so. But that's kind of what I would think Lee's Summit-wise. By the way, if you live in the Kansas City metro, KNBC, I will plug them, is going to be your source for complete winter weather coverage. If you want really specific reports as to what's happening outside as the event's going on, full coverage. KNBC, a great source. I used to work for them and with them. And Brian Busby, a good friend of mine, a great mentor, and he's got you covered. Neville, Katie, Pete, they're all there. Nick, they're gonna handle this one for you. But yeah, Lee Summit, I think probably 5 to 6, 7, 8 could be a little bit on the higher end, but we'll see. Southwest Missouri, again, totals are likely going to be a little bit higher. Also, will plug my mentor, Doug Hetty, who, by the way, just started his own weather channel, so to speak, and has been doing an absolutely phenomenal job just getting the whole operation running, and he's doing this by himself. He is going to be your source for complete winter weather coverage in Southwest Missouri, Northeast Oklahoma, Northwest Arkansas, Southeast Kansas. Doug Hetty is got you covered 100%. He has taught me everything I know, so go to him when you really want that updated information as the system's impacting that area. All right. Enough about Missouri. Let's go to Arkansas for a second. And I had a question about Massachusetts, and we'll talk Massachusetts eventually. You're under a winter storm watch right now, which basically means, hey, we're watching. We're about, a couple of days out now. We think this is going to start to be a big deal. Likely winter storm warnings will come. In Massachusetts, and we'll talk amounts in a little bit across the Northeast, but more pressing for right now is going to be what's happening across the central and southern plains. Arkansas is going to be hit particularly hard by this system, unfortunately. And so I want to get down to Arkansas. I also want to take a moment and answer some of the questions that I'm seeing. Somebody said, wait, is that accurate on the amount we will be getting in Missouri? Moon said that. The question is where in Missouri? I think Kansas City, Columbia, St. Louis, that 8 to 9 is pushing it a little bit. Might be a little lower than that, probably closer to the 5 to 6 to 7 range, isolated 8 to 9. But it's not completely out of the question either. Okay, let's get down to Arkansas. If anybody is watching from Arkansas, this is your time to pay attention, because we're going to do a complete dive into Arkansas and talk about what's happening there. And then from that point forward, after that, we're going to do another reset at the top of the hour at 5 o'clock. And I'm going to show you the whole country, give you a little bit broader perspective, and show you the Northeast as well, which I know a lot of you have been having questions particularly about the Northeast. But let's talk about Arkansas for a second, because unfortunately, I think that this is going to be one spot that is hit particularly hard by the system in a lot of different ways. And then again, at the top of the hour, we'll do Arkansas here for the next 7 or 8 minutes. Then I'm going to answer any questions that you have. And then we're going to do a reset at the top of the hour, and we'll start all over and dive into new information that's coming up here as we approach 7 o'clock Central Time. And look at this massive, sprawling storm system that's on the way. Okay, so here we are right now, and we're looking now at Arkansas. So the reason why I think Arkansas is going to have so many problems is because it is going to be truly in the battle zone between the very cold air that's moving in from the north, the mild air that's moving in from the south. So that creates, yes, the snow and freezing rain concerns, but also it's going to be right in line with where our storm system is tracking. So I want to show you exactly what to expect to help you prepare for this one. And you still have the rest of tonight and part of tomorrow to get ready if you live in Arkansas. This forecast is important. So again, if you live in Arkansas, pay attention, listen up, turn your phone up a little bit, turn the volume on the laptop up as we go over some of this. So like I said, we're nice and quiet through the rest of this evening and into early tomorrow morning. So here's Friday at 7 a.m. Not much going on the radar in any part of Arkansas. However, it is going to be very cold. That Arctic air mass is going to be slamming in from the north. You're going to wake up in Mountain Home and Jonesboro and Conway and go, what the heck happened? It is so much colder now. The southern part of the state is going to be trying to deal with some of that warmer air that's being pushed in from the south. And so it will be the battling and the clashing of those air masses that creates problems in terms of freezing rain. But back to our hour-by-hour forecast. So here we go. This is now 4 p.m. on Friday. Things are still quiet. Tomorrow, if you live in Little Rock, you can get up, you can go to work, you can drive home safely. It's going to be after dark, though, tomorrow night that I would probably cancel your Friday night plans, because look at what's starting to happen by tomorrow at 7 p.m. You're starting to see a mix of all different types of wintry precipitation across the western half of the state. It's light, so still dealing with light snow, a little bit of freezing rain, and just plain old rain from Rogers to Fayetteville down through Fort Smith, Idabel, and southeast Oklahoma. The light intensity of this doesn't last very long, because look at what happens by 10 p.m. on Friday. Arkansas, and depending on where you are in the state, is going to be in the battle zone for different precip types, and no matter where you are, the precipitation type is probably going to be very heavy. So here's 10 p.m. Northern and northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville, and Rogers dealing with moderate to heavy snow bands coming down. It's going to be windy, and visibility will be reduced. In the central part of the state, now as we get closer to midnight, Conway through about Little Rock, dealing with heavy amounts of sleet, which are going to be quite slippery. Where the snow and sleet line are, it's going to be likely just north of that sleet line where you have the highest snow intensity and bands coming down. So a spot like Russellville at midnight is going to be dealing with very high amounts of snow and high snow rates at midnight on Saturday. Across the southern part of the state, again, 1, 2 a.m., you're dealing with periods of moderate. So Arkansas is going to be in the battleground here. Northern half of the state, Mountain Home, Rogers, Fayetteville. I mean, look at some of the darker purple colors that are showing up near Fort Smith as we get into early Saturday morning, 2, 3 a.m. That is extremely heavy snow that's going to be taking place. Blinding, near blizzard conditions expected. Just torrential amounts of sleet coming down in Conway down through Little Rock, 2, 3 a.m. on Saturday, and then periods of moderate freezing rain here from Pine Bluff southward towards El Dorado. And that is just sort of, so to speak, round number 1 that moves through late Friday into early Saturday. There may be, again, just like Oklahoma and just like Missouri and Texas, a small break in the activity here in Arkansas on early Saturday morning, but it isn't going to last very long, because it does look like another potent round of winter weather moves in by mid-morning on Saturday. So Arkansas may not see that much of a break at all in the winter weather, and boy, is this going to be ugly. Saturday morning at 10 a.m., don't go anywhere. The state is split. Northern half of the state, Russellville, Mountain Home, Jonesboro, impassable travel, near blizzard conditions. Little Rock, Conway, Hot Springs, all dealing with intense sleet that's going to make very, very slippery roadways. Freezing rain and snow also will be mixed in there. And again, this continues pretty much all day on Saturday. Here's Saturday at noon. You have the snow across the northern half of the state, the sleet and some freezing rain in the central part of the state, and then also just plain old heavy freezing rain, crippling amounts of freezing rain here across the southern part of the state, Texarkana, El Dorado, and Greenville. And so I think one of the things that separates Arkansas from the rest of the areas that we looked at, number one, less in the way of a break when it comes to all this activity. It's just going to be coming. And it will likely start, again, Friday night, continue all Saturday, continue through Saturday afternoon, and then maybe finally wrap up, it looks like, early Sunday, and truly a battleground in Arkansas when it comes to the intensity of precipitation types and also where those precipitation types are going to be setting up. So I want to show you totals, and then we're coming up on 450. And then I'm going to answer some of your questions, and I'll do my best to answer your questions specific to your location. 450 on the West Coast, 650 Central, and what would that be? 850 on the East Coast? I'm not sure. I should know that. Math is not mathing right now as we focus on the weather. All right, so let's talk totals for Arkansas here in the natural state. They're going to be intense. And so let's first start with a look at snow totals. Notice, again, snow totals are going to be really high across the northern half of the state. So Mountain Home could be dealing with a foot of snow, Rogers a foot of snow, Fayetteville about 11, maybe a foot as well, Fort Smith 5 to 10 inches, and then Little Rock, totals are a little lower there because of the fact that we're going to be mixing in more so with sleet and some freezing rain, but still could pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow. But look at the ice totals here across Arkansas, particularly the central and southern part of the state. I mean, this is just going to be ugly. Pine Bluff, 1/2 inch of ice is going to be crippling. Greenville, back on the Mississippi side here as we look at the Delta, likely going to be dealing with another 1/2 inch of ice. So really, really high amounts of ice. Power lines coming down, tree lines coming down. Obviously, travel is going to be impassable in this part of the state. You know, if I were to pick, I would say with this system, the ice might actually end up being the most significant as opposed to the snow. Somebody said, how bad is Conway going to get it? And Conway is going to be one of those spots that I think we're in the battleground between snow and sleet. And so potentially in Conway, you could be talking about, and I think this is realistic, about 1/4 inch or so of straight ice on the ground, and that on top of or combined with about 5 inches of snow. So 5 inches of snow and then 1/4 inch of ice. Obviously, again, another spot where travel is going to be impassable. You're probably going to have power outages, and it is just going to be a very ugly situation. We're going to look at Mississippi as well because that's going to be another spot that is hit particularly hard by the ice part of this storm. But first, I want to get back over just to a broader view for a second, turn back on our winter alerts because there are a lot of them as we look at this powerhouse winter storm that is on the way and our continuous coverage of this winter storm that is unfortunately going to wreak havoc on a lot of areas. And I'm just kind of cleaning up. I hate a cluttered screen when it comes to weather maps. And so I'm just kind of cleaning some of this up. But I want to make sure that as we reset here, you have everything available to look at. All right, so there's what the map looks like right now. A lot going on, obviously. Let's take a second and get over to some of your comments on the TikTok side of things. We're looking at YouTube. If you have any questions, shoot them my way, and we'll spend the next couple of minutes, let's say now, until the top of the hour, going through some of the questions that you may have. And if you can, be specific to your region versus city. Obviously, I don't know every single city in the country, So if you can be specific, hey, central, whatever, Kentucky, northern, whatever, Alabama, that would be great. And I'll do my best to answer some of them as we go through some of this and talk about what all is to come. And there's a lot to come. Somebody said, can you check on southern Indiana, please? Yeah, let's do just that. So here is a look at southern Indiana, and a winter storm warning will go into effect across southern Indiana here, which begins from midnight. A winter storm warning is in effect from midnight Friday night until 6 a.m. on Sunday, and that winter storm warning includes Evansville, Fort Branch, Princeton, Jasper, and Henderson. North of there, a winter storm watch remains in effect across central Indiana, including the Indianapolis metro area. And I will remind you, it is possible that those winter storm watches will eventually be upgraded to winter storm warnings that are going to be coming into place here over the next couple of days. Now, in terms of totals in Indiana, let's show you what to expect. And let's kind of look first here at snow. This is going to be mainly a snow issue across southern Indiana. Some pretty hefty totals. This is going to be an impressive one. Bloomington, we're talking about likely anywhere from 9 inches to about a foot. Evansville, oh boy, is likely going to be dealing with a, let's say, a range of 10 to about 15 inches of snow. Louisville, 10 to 15. Lexington, again, up to a foot, maybe more. Not completely out of the question either. So it is going to get quite ugly in that part of the country. If you remember earlier in the stream, I said there was 2 spots that I was mainly concerned about in terms of the highest impacts. One of those was in Arkansas, as well as western Mississippi. The other is going to be across the Ohio Valley, and that's going to be mainly just in terms of snow that we're going to be dealing with. And we'll look at that. And we're going to look at New England as well in just a second as we kind of do a reset at this system. But it is going to be a long next couple of days to come for sure with this powerhouse storm system. And we're going on hour 2 now of our continuous coverage of a massive winter storm that is on the way. For a lot of the country, this one could be kind of a blockbuster storm. Let's look at the Northeast here for just a couple of minutes, because I see questions about New England, as well as I thought I saw a question about Massachusetts as well in there. So let's look for a second at the Northeast. And I want to start first with our watches and warnings map. So here's how things are shaping up right now. If you live in the Northeast, particularly in New England, so there is a winter storm watch that's now in place. This includes all of New England, all of the major I-95 corridor cities underneath a winter storm watch. So Baltimore, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York, Hartford, Providence, Boston, Manchester, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Dover, all the way up to Portland, Maine, underneath a winter storm watch at this point. These are more than likely going to be upgraded to winter storm warnings as we get a little closer to the event. Remember, this storm system first has to wreak havoc across the central part of the country, and then it will cause problems in New England as we get into early next week. And not only New England, but the Mid-Atlantic as well. But I've had quite a few questions about New England, and so I want to kind of focus in for a second on that part of the country and show you how this is more than likely going to play out. We're going to look again, like we have been, at our 18Z European model, and this just gives us an idea of what to expect. Everything I'm showing you, especially in New England here, right, because this is where we have lower confidence, is subject to change. But I want to at least go through the forecast with you over the next couple of days and show you what to expect. All right, so here is a peek at New England as a whole. And notice how as we go through your day on Friday, there's more than likely going to be some snow showers taking place across parts of upstate New England. You know, Boston, Worcester, Concord, Manchester. Those are going to be spots that will likely see some snow showers all the way through central into upstate New York. Friday into Saturday. This is not the main system. Main system doesn't start to kick in here into New England until we get to about Sunday. So this is now Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, as the sun is starting to come up. Look at where it's snowing already extremely heavily. It is snowing very hard in the nation's capital. Dover, Delaware, dealing with heavy amounts of snow. Rhode Island starting to see the snow. Trenton starting to see the snow in New Jersey. Here we are, a major storm system that almost looks like a nor'easter. This is definitely not a true nor'easter, but it almost looks like a nor'easter is knocking on the doorstep of New England. And again, it kind of depends on where you are. The further south in New England you are, the quicker it'll start to snow, meaning time-wise. So earlier in the day on Sunday versus northern New England, so New Hampshire to Maine, it's going to be later in the day on Sunday. There's also more than likely going to be a mix of freezing rain that's taking place here across the Delmarva. And again, it looks like the worst impacts in terms of Massachusetts, in terms of Rhode Island, in terms of Connecticut, New Hampshire are going to likely be Sunday afternoon through Monday morning before the system pulls away on Monday afternoon and things start to dry out for us on Tuesday. Let's talk totals here for a second across New England because those are important. And again, I'm just mentioning New England right now, probably not going to be a freezing rain type situation because we're going to have the cold air locked into place. Further south, mid-Atlantic, Delmarva, you likely will deal with some sleet and freezing rain. But I want to show you, again, for the first time, a look at snow totals to come with this one across New England. And it is going to put to 20 inches of snow possible across central Massachusetts, through much of New York, through much of Pennsylvania, into New Hampshire. A quick 20, 25, even 30-inch range, not completely out of the question. So obviously, just a crippling blockbuster snowstorm for New England as well. And there will be a lot of time to focus on the Mid-Atlantic and New England and those Northeast states and that I-95 corridor to come into the Midwest over the next 48 hours before we really shift our attention into what's going to be taking place in New England. But obviously, yes, snow totals going to be impressive even for a place that deals with a lot of snow. When we start talking about 19, you could see a couple of spots. Again, there's 27, maybe pushing 30 inches of snow. Not completely out of the question. Eastern Massachusetts, Boston area, just going to be absolutely crippling, unfortunately, and will be, you know, one of those things where it's going to take a few days to plow all that. Again, given the fact that this is a place that receives a lot of snow, this will be a lot even for them. So that was just kind of a quick peek at what to expect there across New England, where winter storm watches are in place. But eventually, of course, those will be upgraded as well to winter storm warning. So this storm is no joke. For sure. All right. Again, I want to thank all of you for joining, for tuning in right now. We have a lot of you watching, which I very much appreciate, and who have been supportive of our stream and watching all of the active weather and the major storm systems that are taking place. It has been a very, very busy and active couple of days as we've been watching these storm systems pushing through and kind of moving through. I just want to make sure that our stream is still working correctly and that everything is up and running. And we're in hour 2 now of our continuous coverage of a major winter storm that is going to be moving into a good part of the country. So I'm going to take a sip of water and then we'll do a reset and we'll kind of just go through all of this again and talk about what to expect. And, I think we were talking earlier about going state by state. We can do a little bit about that again. But I would also kind of like to, break it down region by region for you as well. Let's do this. Let's do kind of another reset as we go into hour 2 of the country. A lot going on. And I don't know of anybody who has not heard about this storm system yet. Everybody's talking about it. It's all over your social media pages. You've likely seen it. And so, we're here to kind of help break it down for you and talk about what to expect. All right, so 7 o'clock now on the in our central time zones, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, and we're going to take a peek at what's happening and any updates that have taken place since we started here. So, big picture, here it is. You're looking at a wide view of the whole country where we have a lot happening, a lot of very active weather, a major storm system that's going to be moving in, and anywhere that you see in pink to start off, that is a winter storm warning that is now in place, which means we expect winter weather and winter storm warning criteria conditions to begin here within the next 48 hours or less. So that winter storm warning includes pretty much all of Texas. It includes central into eastern New Mexico, pretty much all of Oklahoma minus one county in the Panhandle. Winter storm warning also goes into much of Kansas City. This goes into central and southern Missouri, most of Arkansas underneath the winter storm warning as well. And then the purple color that you see, it's kind of a new one. Don't see that very often. That is an ice storm warning. And so we have an ice storm warning that is in effect for northern Mississippi, as well as extreme southeastern Arkansas, northeastern Louisiana. The ice storm warning does creep into northwest Alabama as well. Ice storm warning for southern into southwestern parts of Tennessee. And then anywhere else, that lighter blue color, that is a winter storm watch that's in place. And our winter storm watches are in effect for all of the mid-Atlantic as well as the Northeast as well. And so those winter storm watches are issued and get a little bit more confidence in what's going to take place is when the winter storm warnings are issued as opposed to those watches. So winter storm warnings, anywhere that you see again in the pink color, includes most of Texas, Oklahoma, into Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, gets into Tennessee, much of Kentucky. And on top of that, we've also really been dealing with the cold weather, which is going to be a big concern. And one thing I did before that I kind of want to do again, at least just briefly, is explain the setup with this storm system and why it is likely going to be so significant, and a couple of the different ingredients that are going to be coming together for this system to really wreak havoc. And so here's what we got going on. I'm going to turn off the alerts for just a second. And so a couple of things I want to break down for you that will help at least explain and diagnose why this system is going to be so powerful and why it's going to be so expansive. So number one, we have a really strong area of high pressure. We'll call this our Canadian area of high pressure. You can call it, the big dome of cold air if you want. And it is sliding down pretty quickly and bringing in the very, very cold temperatures, right? So this is the source of the cold from way up north, way in the polar areas of Canada is where we're getting the cold. A lot of the times, at least this time of year, the cold moves northeast. In this particular situation, the cold air that we need for this storm system is going to be moving directly south, and it is extremely cold that we have. The next thing that we're watching is actually some mild air that's moving in off the Gulf. And so you get the mild air that's moving in off the Gulf, the very cold air that's coming down from the upper Midwest and really originating from Canada. Those two, no matter what, even without a storm system, are going to clash in this area. However, we do have a storm system, and right now that storm system is out across the west in Southern California. Low pressure system. It is going to be tracking east here over the next 24 hours, and it's going to be running into A, the very cold air that we have in place, and then B, the mild air that's coming up off the Gulf. And so what's that going to do? Well, two things. Number one, it is going to create big problems with snow, because in the areas where we have that cold air locked into place already, the snow totals are going to be high, and it will start snowing like that. In the spots where we have the cold air kind of mixing in with some of that warmer air coming up off the Gulf, that's where we're going to run into some big issues in terms of freezing rain. So you can see how the stage is sort of set for a really high impact weather event. Where is our storm system right now? Here it is, again, swirling off the coast of Southern California, and it doesn't look all that impressive. It's bringing some light rain showers right now. You can actually kind of see the counterclockwise swirl there, kind of near South Point Conception, actually south of Los Angeles, south of Catalina Island, west of San Diego and Ensenada. There's our storm system. This is it. This is going to be the big weather maker that's going to be causing this cross-country storm system over the next couple of days, that broad counterclockwise spin that you see there. So there's the storm itself. I was telling you a second ago about the cold and the warm air and how those are going to be clashing, so to speak. Here's where the cold air is at the moment. It's in the upper Midwest. These are actual air temperatures. Right now it is 17 degrees below zero in Fargo, 20 below in Grand Forks. It is 13 below in Bismarck. And believe it or not, it's this type of cold that's going to be spreading to the south here over the next 24 hours. Now, here's the mild air coming up off the Gulf. 62 degrees in Mobile, Alabama right now. 62 in Baton Rouge as well. We have low 60s in Waco. It's 66 degrees in Austin, a place that's expecting significant icing over the next 48 hours. Even Dallas is at 55. Oklahoma City is at 46. a place like Jackson, Mississippi, that's going to have big icing concerns, is sitting in the mid 50s. So you wouldn't know that there is a big storm coming. However, it's that warm air, like I explained just a bit ago, that's going to be part of the problem with the freezing rain kind of riding on top of that cold air. And then obviously the bitterly cold air from the north that's going to be moving down. All of it comes together when that storm system arrives. And it's going to cause, unfortunately, a lot of impact. So let's kind of go through the timing of this together and look big picture, because we have been doing some regional stuff, but I want to look big picture at the whole country for a second, and what we expect with this storm and sort of the timing of how it all evolves. For this one, we're going to be using the 18Z European model run, just like we've been doing for most of the stream. And all right, so follow along, cause this blockbuster winter storm right now spinning off the coast of Southern California. Elsewhere, the weather is quiet, but check to the north. You can see our high pressure, our expansive high pressure system, and the very cold air that's associated with it, and windy conditions as well, tight isobars. Further south, weather is quiet as well, but warm air that's moving up off the Gulf. So watch what happens over the next 24 hours. Our storm system kind of moves south of Southern California through Baja California and then ejects across New Mexico. And boom, next thing you know, by late tomorrow night, late Friday into early Saturday morning is when we start running into problems. You can see rain that first starts to develop here across North Texas, a little bit of snow that may be developing here across western Kansas and western Nebraska. And there's going to be 2 waves that are likely associated with this system just in terms of the central and southern plains. So here's Saturday, early, or this is rather late Friday night, early Saturday morning. Wave number 1 is impacting parts of the central and southern plains. Where we have the very cold air in place, that means central northern Oklahoma through Kansas, it's all snow that's falling during wave number 1 here, late Friday through early Saturday morning, where you have the mixing, that warm and cold air and kind of a boundary that's down here as well across northern Texas. That's where you have a little bit of freezing rain. And then south of there, across central into southern Texas, Austin, San Antonio, at least at this point, late Friday into Saturday, it's still all liquid precipitation as rain. Here we go. We're continuing to move forward. Wave number 1 then moves and progresses eastward. It looks like this is now going to be on our Saturday afternoon is when we start running into problems across parts of Arkansas as well as Missouri and northern Louisiana. Even really before that in northern Arkansas, late Friday into Saturday, is when we start seeing, again, the snow across Missouri, the mixing, the freezing rain across central Arkansas, and then just plain old cold rain across central into southern Louisiana with this first wave. Meanwhile, back to the west, across parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, into North Texas, there may be a little bit of a break here on Saturday afternoon, but then we get kind of a lead wave or our next wave that comes in late Saturday night into Sunday, and the precipitation starts to pick back up again in spots like central Oklahoma in terms of all snow. You're dealing with the freezing rain across North Texas, obviously heavy amounts of freezing rain across Arkansas, snow across Missouri, snow extending back into the Ohio Valley, freezing rain there across parts of Tennessee. So a big mess. And then eventually as we get into Sunday, the system picks up a little bit of speed and it moves into New England and causes a lot of problems there in spots like Boston that could pick up maybe 20 to 25 inches of snow before all is said and done. So a lot of very impactful weather with this system that is that's on the way here. All right, let's take a peek at what I'd like to do is first I'm going to show you just broad brush snowfall and ice totals across the country. I like to get a little bit more detailed, especially when you're watching from a particular location and I show you a map that looks like this and it doesn't really zoom in or show you, where you live or many details about your area. And so what we were doing earlier in the stream was kind of zooming in region by region, even state by state, and breaking down precipitation type and hazard. And I think we can do that again in just a second. We talked a lot about Texas. We talked a lot about Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri. We talked about Arkansas. We also talked about parts of western Mississippi where we have the ice storm warning that's in place. I want to focus next on, and in just a second, across the Ohio Valley. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. Would love to answer as many questions as I possibly can. And then we can kind of go from there. Periodically, you'll see me checking my phone just to make sure that everything is still operating and going well with the stream, which I think it is. There doesn't seem to be any problems there. All right. So let's do this. This is a look at here's a look, first of all, at projected snowfall totals just from this system across the entire country. And again, you're going to see in there. One of those is across northern Oklahoma, where you could see, again, a foot of snow or more north of Oklahoma City, closer to Tulsa. Another hot spot potentially across northern Kentucky, southwest Ohio, another 12 to 13 inches of snow possible. And then New England, even into the mid-Atlantic, where we could be talking about 20 to 25 inches of snow, which are not completely out of the question here. So it is a lot of snow that is on the way. Let's kind of do this. Let's get into the Ohio Valley for a second and kind of just talk about what to expect. And I want to particularly focus in on Kentucky, as well as southern Indiana, and just take you through the forecast of what to expect here over the next couple of days. And we're going to use the 0Z HER is coming in, so we can at least start there, which is our new computer model run, and then we can kind of switch if need be. But here's what to expect across the Ohio Valley. And again, we're looking particularly at Kentucky, Tennessee, parts of Indiana, as well as southern Illinois over the next couple of days. So weather is quiet tonight, and for the rest of the night tonight, there are not going to be any problems. As we get into early Friday morning, things are still quiet. However, we have that very cold air that's going to be moving in from the north. And so that sets the stage, obviously, for some of the wintry precip. You also have to remember that there's going to be some mild air, too, moving in from the south, from the Gulf. That sets the stage for some of the frozen precip. Regardless, here we are, back Friday at 6 a.m. Things are pretty quiet. And will be for most of the day on Friday. By the way, the storm is starting to rage to the west across parts of the southern plains by Friday night. Things still quiet here in the Ohio Valley heading into Friday night. So your day on Friday is going to be completely fine. No problems at all. It's going to be more so early Saturday morning that we start to pick up on some problems. Okay, so here is Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And I can pull the screen just a little bit closer that way. And notice what we have going on. So snow is starting to take place here across southern Illinois, also western Kentucky, big area of snow across central and western Tennessee, which does include Nashville. And that is, remember, just because we have that very cold air that's already going to be locked into place. So really across the Ohio Valley, impacts are going to start on Saturday. And then by midday Saturday, here's what the radar could look like. Heavy amounts of snow that are going to be ongoing across western Tennessee. Those pockets of deep purple that you see northwest Jackson, Tennessee, that is where we have heavy amounts of snow taking place. The rest of the Ohio Valley starting to get in on some of the snow in there as well. Switching model runs just because our HRRR ran out. But again, here's Saturday, all day Saturday, we have snow that's ongoing across the Ohio Valley, and snow totals are going to get really intense late Saturday night into early Sunday morning. This is when the system is at its strongest in the Ohio Valley. And look at spots like Bloomington, Cincinnati, Louisville, Carbondale, Cape Girardeau, Paducah, all dealing with intense and very high snowfall rates here. It looks like there could be some intense snow bursts, possibly blizzard conditions that'll be ongoing. And again, that is in place where we have the very cold air that's going to be locked in. High snowfall rates, Cincinnati, Bloomington, Louisville, late Saturday night through Sunday morning looks to be the worst. Haven't even talked about what's happening south of there across southern Kentucky, mainly south of Lexington, Fayette. So Somerset, Bowling Green, Clarksville, this is where the air masses are fighting, where you have air that is, the mild air and the cold air, that cold Arctic air that are fighting, and so you have intense freezing rainfall rates. And this is going on, mind you, as we advance this, for several hours. So this is a big deal, and things don't wrap up in the Ohio Valley until Sunday night. So snow starts Saturday afternoon. It's at its worst late Saturday night to early Sunday morning, winds down Sunday afternoon. So big time snowfall rates across northern Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, and then across central Kentucky is where we have air masses that are fighting, some more freezing rain that'll be ongoing. And in terms of, could even see a little bit of thunder sleet or thunder freezing rain. In terms of total snow, again, it's impressive. Lexington, Cincinnati could be talking about a foot to a foot and a half of snow here. So a big deal between now and when things are wrapped up on Monday. How about ice? A little bit further south into Kentucky, ice going to be a very big deal. You can see, even a tenth of an inch of ice or so, up to a quarter, is going to cause some big crop problems across central and on into southern Kentucky. And then obviously where we have ice storm warnings across western Tennessee, that's where we could be talking about half of an inch of ice or more. So really powerful storm system that is on the way. All right, so at this point, I think what we'll do is, at least for now, sort of take a break on the stream. But I do want to give everybody or anybody the opportunity who, we've been going 2.5 hours of our live continuous coverage of this winter storm. Anybody who hasn't asked a question or needs to ask a question, the opportunity to do so. If not, I think we'll probably wrap things up here. We have a lot more coverage to come. Obviously, this is just day one of a multi-day event that's going to be ongoing for several days straight. And this is just the this is just the getting ready. So I would encourage you to follow along my YouTube channel. I would also encourage you to continue to follow along with TikTok. We'll be back live doing more continuous coverage over the next couple of days as the storm rolls through. Blockbuster, historic winter storm across the country. And so again, thanks everybody for joining. We will be back with more